The crib wasn't supposed to be there when he knocked. The man everyone in my family bowed to stepped into my $39 a night room and froze at the sight of pale blue rails. "Whose child is this?" he asked, as if the answer might burn the last page of his will. I stared back and said, "Yours, if you meant it when you taught us that family comes before money." The next morning, the family group chat exploded. By sundown, a six-figure gift had vanished, a forged signature was under review, and the golden child finally met a locked door. My name is Everly Hayes. I'm 27 years old, and for the last 6 weeks, my home has been room 214 at the Pinehurst Motel, a place that smells like stale cigarettes, and industrial cleaner. The neon sign outside buzzes, casting a sick pink glow over the peeling laminate desk where I sit every night, trying to make the numbers make sense. By day, I'm a billing analyst on probation at Silver Pine Regional Clinic. It's a job I clawed my way into, one that requires me to look at other people's financial misery and code it correctly. By night, I run gig shifts, delivering lukewarm pad thai and pizza to homes with driveways, counting the tips to see if they'll cover tomorrow's gas or another can of formula. I'm stretching the formula. I tell myself it's fine, that June won't notice, but the guilt eats at me every time I add that extra half of water. Inflation isn't just a word on the news here. It's the rising price of diapers. The reason I buy the off-brand teething rings, the knot in my stomach that never ever goes away. On the corner of the desk, next to my laptop, is the stack. Medical bills, preeclampsia, an emergency C-section, a 2-day stay in the NICU for June, the complications of childbirth, all built into neat, terrifying line items. I'm living week to week because I had to break a predatory lease, one that doubled the rent with 30 days notice. And the motel was the only place that would take cash without a credit check. My daughter, June, is asleep in the portable crib wedged between the bed and the wall. She is perfect. She is the only thing in my life that is whole and true. And she is the one thing my family can never know about. My family is the Lane family. You might not know the name, but you know the buildings they've put up, the skyline they helped shape. The wealth, the real foundational money, sits with one person, Elliot Lane, my grandfather. He's 82, a self-made real estate magnate, who built an empire from gravel and sheer force of will. He taught us that a Lane pays their debts and never ever makes excuses. At least, he used to talk to me. I haven't heard his voice in almost 2 years, not since the Thanksgiving blow-up. It was a masterpiece of domestic warfare engineered entirely by my Aunt Meredith. A misplaced word here, a faked email there, and suddenly I was the ungrateful, volatile granddaughter, who had stormed out screaming about the family's values. The truth was I had quietly asked why my education fund had been empty. The explosion that followed wasn't mine. It was theirs. But I was the one cast out. Now the only one who has Elliot's ear is my cousin Tessa Whitlock. She's 26, a micro-celebrity, an influencer who documents her perfectly curated life for hundreds of thousands of followers. Tessa is Meredith's daughter, the golden child. Her visits to Grandpa are carefully staged photo opportunities. She brings him artisan pastries and polished lies, reinforcing the narrative of her success and my failure. She is everything I am not, polished, compliant, and most importantly, profitable for the family brand, the education fund. That's the original wound, the one that still festers all through my childhood. My parents, rest their souls, beamed with pride. Everly doesn't need to worry, my mother would say. Your grandfather set up an education fund for you. It'll cover college. No problem. They believed it. I believed it. I went to a state school, lived frugally, and assumed the bills were being handled by the trust, just as they promised. It wasn't until I was 23, applying for a master's program and needing a copy of my undergraduate transcripts, that I found out. I called the bursar's office about a hold on my account. They told me I had an outstanding balance of several thousand for my final semester. I was confused. I called Stonebridge Trust, the firm that manages the Lane Family Preservation Trust. The administrator was cold. Ms. Hayes, there have been no disbursements made from the LFPT in your name for educational purposes ever. It was my money. The scholarships I'd won, the 2 jobs I'd worked, the federal loans I was still drowning under that had been me. The fund was a story. A comforting lie my parents had been told, and they had passed it on to me. By the time I found out, they were both gone, and I had no one to ask. The money that was supposedly mine had simply never existed for me. My isolation is complete. June's father, Colton Drew, was charming and supportive right up until the second pink line appeared on the test. He talked about childcare, about splitting costs, about how we would make it work. Then he started missing calls. When I was 7 months pregnant and the first medical bills arrived, his number was disconnected. He refused to be listed on the birth certificate. He ghosted, leaving me with a mountain of debt and a baby he will never claim. The only person who shows me any kindness is Rayon, the night desk clerk. He's a quiet man with kind eyes who sees everything. He let me pay 2 days late last week, no questions asked. He just nodded and slid the key card back to me. Room's clean, was all he said. He's also the one who pointed out the car. Silver sedan, he'd murmured last night while I was buying a soda from the vending machine. Mercedes been parked across the street by the highway entrance 3 times this week, just idling. They watch the front door. Family watchers, Aunt Meredith's people. The thought of them tracking me, of them seeing June, makes my blood run cold. This afternoon, the mail slot clattered. It wasn't just junk mail. It was a certified letter, the dreaded green and white slip. I had to go to the front desk to sign for it. It was from Stonebridge Trust. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely sign my name. I tore it open back in the room, June cooing on the bed. It was a single-page, thick cardstock, a formal denial of my application for a hardship allowance from the trust. I had applied 3 weeks ago, a desperate last-ditch effort, hoping some automated system would approve it. The reason for denial, beneficiary non-compliance. What compliance? I hadn't been asked to comply with anything. It was another wall, another locked door. Tonight, after a grueling gig shift that netted me exactly $42, I put June to sleep. The pink light from the sign outside paints the room, and the highway provides a constant rushing white noise. She's asleep, her tiny hand curled around my finger. I carefully pull away and open my laptop. I draft an appeal. I am polite. I am professional. I am the billing analyst I am trained to be. I attach the screenshots of the unpaid tuition receipts from my university. I attach the itemized invoices from Silver Pine Regional, the ones marked past due from my postnatal complications. I am building a case, pleading to an anonymous email address at the trust. I finish the email, and my cursor hovers over the send button, but I know where it will go. It will go into a filter. It will be flagged for Meredith. It will be deleted. I think about texting Grandpa Elliot directly. My fingers even type out the message. Grandpa, I need help. It's not what you think, but I delete it. The last time I tried, 6 months ago, just to say I missed him, the reply came almost immediately. But it wasn't him. It was from his phone, but the language was cold, corporate. It was Meredith. Please respect Grandpa's rest. He is not to be disturbed with family matters. You can direct any inquiries through my office. My office. I close the laptop. The certified letter is a weapon. They are documenting me as the problem. They are building a case to have me formally disinherited. Citing non-compliance. An email won't work. A phone call won't work. I look at June, sleeping in the cheap crib I bought secondhand, the one that barely fits in this room. The sight of her, so innocent in this world of manufactured lies, hardens my fear into something else, resolve. I can't fight them through their channels, they own the channels. I have to create a new one. I will show him the truth. I will bring Elliot Lane here, to this motel, to this room. I will make him see the receipts, the bills, and the baby. I will make him see what his family, in his name, has done. I just have to get him here before Meredith realizes I'm no longer playing by her rules. I can't just be a victim. A billing analyst's job is to find the story in the numbers, to follow the paper until the discrepancy makes sense. If Meredith is building a case against me, I will build a better one against her. My new gig shift is research. After June is fed and sleeping, her breathing a soft rhythm in the dark room, I open my laptop. The motel's Wi-Fi is slow, agonizingly slow, but it's all I have. I start digging. It begins with the Lane Family Preservation Trust, the LFPT. I have old emails from my parents, forwarded correspondence from Stonebridge Trust, years ago. I start with public filings. Trusts of this size have to register. They have to file basic paperwork. I find it. The trustees are listed clearly, Elliot Lane, Meredith Witt, and a third name, Graham Vale. Elias Graham Vale. I remember him. A tall, thin man with a smile that never reached his eyes, always carrying a pristine leather briefcase. He was the family attorney, the one who drafted the documents and nodded approvingly at everything Elliot said. He was also, I recall, the one who handled Tessa's first DUI, making it quietly disappear. I have a beneficiary portal, the one that's now useless, but I can still access old statements, the ones from before I was locked out. I pull years of them. I'm looking for a pattern. I find one every year around late April. Tessa's birthday is May 2nd. A significant grant is dispersed from the LFPT. The recipient is listed as Rose Quartz Media LLC. A quick search confirms what I already suspect. It's Tessa's shell corporation, the one that manages her brand deals and influencer contracts. But the grant isn't labeled lifestyle or personal. It's labeled Educational Enrichment Grant, STEM Mentorship Initiative. Tessa and STEM. The only science Tessa knows is the chemistry of her hair dye and the physics of her camera angles. It's a joke. It's theft, laundered through a corporate entity and rubber-stamped by the trustees. I create a spreadsheet. In one column, Tessa's STEM grants approved every single year. In the next column, my requests, my hardship allowance request denied for non-compliance. My old, desperate email from 2 years ago asking for a small disbursement to cover a medical bill, denied for insufficient cause. My inquiry about the education fund, denied for beneficiary ineligibility. I stare at the denial letters, the digital copies. I save the wording. It's identical. After careful review of your request and your status within the trust provisions, we have determined. It's the same 4 sentences, just in a different order. It's boilerplate. It's an automated pretext, a filter designed to catch the name Everly Hayes and generate a rejection. No human eyes ever saw my pleas. My work at Silver Pine Regional Clinic is my lifeline, but it's also, I realize, an archive. I'm on probation, but I still have access to the billing system. I spend my lunch breaks not eating, but searching. I'm not looking at patient files, I'm looking at write-offs, the money the hospital eats. I find something, a patient balance from 6 months ago, a significant one, labeled as a charity write-off. The charity that covered the balance, the Whitlock Foundation. Meredith has a foundation. Of course she does. It's the required accessory for women of her status. I dig into the foundation's public filings. It's all there. And then I see the name on the accounting forms. The person who signed off on the foundation's financials, D. Caro. The name pings a memory. I go back to the LFPT sub-account statements, the ones detailing the disbursements to Tessa's shell company. The signatory on those transfer authorizations, D. Caro. The same accountant signs off on Meredith's charity and authorizes the stem payments to Tessa from the family trust. This isn't just a conflict of interest, it's a closed loop. Meredith is using the family trust to fund her daughter, and, quite possibly, using her own foundation to move money in ways that benefit her. All under the signature of the same person. My hands are shaking. This is bigger than just me. This is systemic. I need to know when this started. When they locked Elliot down. I think back to last winter, he'd been hospitalized. Pneumonia, they said. Very serious. Meredith had sent a family-wide email. Grandpa needs complete rest. All communication must go through me to ensure his recovery. She had exclusive access for 3 weeks. No one else saw him. I start searching county notary logs. It's public record. You just have to know where to look. I search for Graham Vale. I search for Elliot Lane. I find a flurry of activity during that exact 3-week window Elliot was in the hospital. Amendments to the trust. Signatures notarized by Graham Vale's office, time-stamped at odd hours, sometimes 10 or 11 at night, rushed, sloppy, all of them solidifying Meredith's control, adding clauses about beneficiary conduct and trustee discretion. He was likely sedated, and she was having him sign away his own power, page by page. The final piece of proof comes not from the public record, but from my own inbox. A misfiled document from Stonebridge Trust, sent to me by mistake 2 years ago. It was an attachment on an email about tax forms. At the time, I didn't know what it was. It's a scanned PDF, a single signature page for a beneficiary declination of funds. It's meant to be my signature acknowledging that I was declining my 2023 distribution, but I never signed it. It's a forgery, a bad one. And they made a mistake, a fatal one, they misspelled my middle name. I am Everly and Hayes. The document, the one with my forged signature, reads Everly and Hayes. It's proof. It's the template pasted signature page they used to justify locking me out. They were so careless, so arrogant. They didn't even check my birth certificate. My heart is pounding. I have it. I have the paper trail. I pick up my phone. It's late, after midnight. I know she monitors his phone, but I also know he keeps it by his bed. He's old school. He might hear the notification. I don't call. I open the voice memo app. I press record. Grandpa, it's me. It's Everly. My voice is quiet, tight. I'm trying not to wake June. I'm not calling to ask for money. I'm calling because I need you to see what they filed under my name. What they've been doing. They are lying to you. They used your hospital stay. I have proof. I just want you to see the truth. I stop. I can't say more. I can't mention the baby. Not on a voicemail she might intercept. I send it to his private number. I wonder if he'll ever even get it. That night, I don't sleep. I leave the flimsy brass chain on the motel door. I move the crib, tucking it behind the curtain, out of the direct line of sight from the door. I rehearse what I'll say if he comes. I rehearse what I'll say if they come first. The fear is a cold, hard stone in my stomach. My phone buzzes on the nightstand at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's a text. My heart stops. It's from Ramon. Silver sedan is back. Parked in the fire lane. I got the plate this time. Ran it. Comes back to Whitlock Leasing. Be careful, Whitlock Leasing. Meredith's leasing company. They aren't just watching anymore. They are here. They are tracking my routine. They know I'm in this room. My panic is immediate, suffocating. I look at June. They can't find her. I spring into action. I am not an analyst anymore. I am a mother. I go to the tiny convenience store attached to the gas station next door. I buy 2 flash drives. I spend the next hour back in my room. The chain on the door copying everything, the spreadsheets, the screenshots of the denial letters, the STEM grant records, the public filings for Rose Quartz Media and the Whitlock Foundation, the notary logs, and the scanned PDF of the forgery. I make copies of everything, every file, every piece of the puzzle. I put 1 flash drive in my pocket. The other one I wrap in a piece of plastic wrap from a sandwich. I lift the thin mattress of June's crib with a roll of medical tape from my first aid kit. I tape the second flash drive securely to the underside of the crib's central slat. They can take my laptop. They can kick me out of this room, but they will not get this. It stays with my daughter. The hum of the highway outside the Pinehurst Motel is a constant, a sound that has replaced the silence of my old apartment. I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, the mattress sinking under my weight, nursing June. My phone screen is too bright in the darkness, and I'm scrolling. A bad habit. A desperate search for connection that only delivers more isolation. And then I see her, my cousin Tessa. She's posted a new reel. It's filmed in what looks like a penthouse, all glass and white marble. The lighting is professional. She is immaculate. She holds up a box. Her manicure perfect. You guys are always asking me how I stay motivated, she chirps, her voice a practiced, breathy intimacy. It's about honoring the lessons. My granddad, the patriarch, always said, you have to earn it. She opens the box. Inside, resting on velvet, is a watch. It's gold, heavy, the face encrusted with diamonds. It catches the light and fractures it into 1,000 sharp pieces. This is my I earned it piece, she says, strapping it on. A little reminder of what the Lane legacy is all about. She winks. The text overlay pops up, $16,000. The hashtags are a final, brutal stab. Hashtag gifted, hashtag family legacy, hashtag earned not given. My milk lets down in a painful rush. June fusses, and I shift her. My eyes scanning the comment section. It's a flood of praise, heart emojis, and envy. And then I see them. What about the other one? The cousin who went rogue. I heard she was totally ungrateful, tried to steal or something. Tessa is the real legacy. The other one is just trash. My stomach clenches. Tessa, or whoever runs her account, hasn't deleted them. She has liked them. She has clicked the small heart icon next to the comment calling me ungrateful. She is actively, publicly validating the narrative that I am the problem. My fingers tremble over the keyboard. I want to write, she didn't earn that. That was paid for by the STEM mentorship initiative from Rose Quartz Media, funded by the trust you're looting. I want to upload the spreadsheet, the forged signature, the proof. I actually start to type. I draft a neutral, cold statement. As a beneficiary of the Lane Family Preservation Trust, I feel compelled to clarify that all distributions are governed by fiduciary duty. Public representations of these distributions, as earned, may be misleading. I look at the words. They are weak. Online, Facts don't matter. Context doesn't matter. On her turf, I am just a crazy relative in the comment section. She has 1 million followers. I have a motel Wi-Fi signal and a stack of medical bills. I delete the text. I close the app. I will not fight her online. That is her battlefield, a place of smoke and mirrors. I will fight in documents. I will fight in the cold, hard language of the law. I will fight with the truth on paper. The next morning, I dropped June at the unlicensed daycare. I found a small apartment run by a grandmother who charges by the hour. It takes every dollar I made on my gig shift last night. I hate leaving her there. I hate the smell of old diapers and cheap air freshener, but I have to work. I walk into Silver Pine Regional Clinic, the smell of bleach and lukewarm coffee hitting me. I'm 10 minutes early, my probationary period looming over every swipe of my key card. My supervisor, Janine, spots me from her cubicle. Everly, my office. Close the door. Janine is a fair woman. Stressed and overworked, but fair. Her expression is not angry. It's worse. It's worried. What's wrong, Janine? She sighs, pushing her glasses up. HR flagged your time sheets. They are asking why your hours are inconsistent, why you're clocking in and out at odd times, why you're not taking a full lunch. I'm on probation, I say, my voice steady. I'm just trying to get my work done. I know that, she says, lowering her voice. But Everly, this didn't come from inside the clinic. We got a call yesterday from the Whitlock Foundation. My blood turns to ice. They are one of our major donors, Janine continues, oblivious to the name's impact. They are conducting a donor audit. They claimed they were reviewing organizational efficiency and wanted to see how donor funds were being managed at the staff level, and they specifically asked about your department, and then they asked about you by name. Meredith isn't just watching my motel. She is attacking my job. She is trying to cut the last thread holding June and me above water. This isn't about the trust anymore. This is about survival. I don't know why they'd ask about me, I lie, my heart hammering against my ribs. I've never even met them. Janine holds up a hand. Look, I don't care about your family stuff. And frankly, a donor trying to micromanage my staff is a red flag for me. I told them your performance was satisfactory, and that our timesheet policies were an internal matter. I'm backing you, Everly, but you need to be clean. No more weird hours. Clock in, clock out. Take your full 30 minutes. Don't give them an excuse. Thank you, Janine. It won't happen again. I walk to my desk, my legs unsteady. She thinks she's protecting me from a nosy donor. She has no idea she's standing between me and a shark. That night, back in the motel room, an email lands in my inbox. It's not from my work address. It's from my personal one, the one tied to the trust. The sender address is nondescript, something like LFPT concerned at Stonebridge. I know the message is from Meredith. Dear Everly, it begins, the tone dripping with false warmth. It has come to my attention that you may be facing some personal challenges. As you know, Grandpa and I are very concerned about your stability. We are currently revisiting all beneficiary distributions. If you wish to be considered, you must submit a formal request through me only. Please outline your current living situation, your employment status, and your needs, and I will personally review it with the board. It's a trap. My voicemail to Elliot. She got it. This is her response. She's not denying it, she's trying to contain it. She's building a new wall, positioning herself as the sole gatekeeper. If I reply to this, if I send her my information, I am handing her the evidence she needs to paint me as unstable. She will take my desperation and frame it as incompetence, as non-compliance. I stare at the email. Submit through me only. I open a new message. I attach Meredith's email. I address it to the General Compliance inbox for Stonebridge Trust. To the compliance officer, I write, I am a beneficiary of the LFPT. I am formally requesting clarification on the proper procedure for a hardship allowance, as the listed trustee, Meredith Whitlock, is attempting to divert official requests to her personal review, which seems to be a conflict of interest. Please advise. I hit send. The reply is immediate, automatic. Your message has been received and archived. A representative will be in touch if further information is needed. Archived, not logged, not forwarded, not under review. Archived. It's the digital equivalent of a shredder. The system is completely, utterly rigged. I feel a surge of despair. I'm blocked at every turn. I go back to my research, to the documents I saved. I'm looking for a name, any name that isn't Meredith or Graham Vale, on the bottom of an old quarterly statement, or a cover letter. I find one prepared by Lara Pike, junior analyst. She's low level. She's probably in her early 20s. She's a nobody, which means she might be the only person who isn't already compromised. I find her on LinkedIn. Silverpine's internet gives me access to a premium account. I send her a message. It's a risk. Ms. Pike, I am a journalist researching fiduciary practices at major trusts. I have some questions about automated denial processes and trustee overreach. Wondering if you'd be open to a background-only chat. It's a long shot. It's a stupid, desperate move. My phone rings an hour later. Blocked number. Is this Everly Hayes? The voice is young, nervous. Who is this? This is Lara Pike. You are not a journalist. My breath catches. No, I'm not. I'm the granddaughter. The one you've been batch denying. There's a sharp intake of breath on the other end. I shouldn't be calling you. I could be fired. They monitor everything. You replied, I say, trying to keep my voice calm. Why? Because, she says, her voice dropping to a whisper, what they are doing to you is wrong. The pressure from M is insane. Your beneficiary code is flagged. Any inquiry, any email, any request from you automatically gets routed to a denial filter and then archived. We are told it's to manage a non-compliant beneficiary. It's a lie, I whisper, rocking June, who has started to stir. I know, Lara says. I know because I saw the original hardship policy. Mr. Lane, your grandfather, he came in himself about 5 years ago, after one of your cousins, not Tessa, had a baby and a bad divorce. He was furious. He personally authored a hardship addendum. It specifically provides for supplemental housing and medical grants for any grandchild with an infant dependent. I stop breathing. He wrote a policy for this, for me, for someone like you. He wanted to make sure no Lane would be in your exact situation. He said it to Mr. Vale. I was in the room taking notes. The money is a tool, not a cage. It's supposed to protect them. But they denied me, I say, the forgery with my misspelled name flashing in my mind. Everly, Lara says, and I can hear her typing. They didn't just deny you. They cut you off before you could even ask. I'm looking at the admin logs. Your access to the beneficiary portal, the one where you would make that specific hardship request, it was disabled. When? 8 months ago. I do the math. 8 months ago, I was 2 months pregnant. It was right after I'd been sick at a family function. Before I was even showing, Meredith must have suspected. She knew. She knew. And she acted first. Who did it? I ask, though I already know the answer. The administrator key, Lara says, her voice flat. Meredith. She didn't just ignore Elliot's wishes. She found the one policy he created to protect me and built a digital wall around it. I have to go, Lara says, her voice suddenly panicked. I can't. They'll know I was digging. Lara, wait. What do I do? She's coming after my job. She's blocked me everywhere. There's a pause. Just the sound of static. If Mr. Lane, she whispers, if he actually saw you with the baby, he would. She cuts herself off, afraid to finish the thought. Meredith controls everything he sees, the reports, the calls. He only sees the polished lies. What are you saying? Make him see what's real, she says, her voice gaining a sudden, fierce clarity. Not the emails. Not the Instagram posts. Make him see the motel room. Make him see the baby. Make him see. The line clicks. She's gone. I look down at June, her eyes wide open, staring up at me. Lara is right. The documents are my evidence. But June is the truth. The call comes 2 days after my conversation with Lara. 2 days of agonizing silence, of me checking my phone every 30 seconds, of me watching the silver sedan idle across the street, and then drive away. 2 days of me wondering if Lara was caught, if I had just made my situation infinitely worse. My phone buzzes. Blocked number. My heart jumps into my throat. I let it ring twice before answering. My voice, a strained whisper, hello. Is this Everly Hayes? The voice is deep, gravelly, and familiar. It's not Elliot. Who is this? This is Gus, Mr. Lane's driver. Gus? He's been with my grandfather for 30 years. He's more than a driver, he's a shadow, a confidant, the man who knows where every skeleton is buried because he probably helped bury them. Gus, is he okay? Mr. Lane is fine. He got your message. My voicemail. He got my voicemail. He wants to see you tonight. Tonight. See me where? At the house. Gus, I can't go there. His phone. His house. Meredith monitors everything. He knows, Gus cuts in, his voice firm. He's not asking you to come to the penthouse. He's coming to you. Room 214, Pinehurst Motel. That's where you are, isn't it? They know. The silver sedan. It wasn't just Meredith's people. It was Gus, doing reconnaissance for Elliot. My grandfather was checking my story before he ever spoke to me. Yes, I say, my hand gripping the edge of the laminate desk. He'll be there at 9. And Everly. Gus's voice is firm. No one else. He's coming alone. You make sure you are too, no one else. The line clicks. I look at the clock on the microwave. It reads 8:18 p.m. I have less than 45 minutes. Panic, cold and sharp, seizes me. I look around the tiny room, seeing it for the first time through his eyes. The peeling wallpaper, the single dim lamp, the faint, persistent smell of mildew, the half-empty can of formula on the counter. I move, a frantic burst of energy. I grab the nearly empty fast food bags and shove them into the small trash can. I wipe down the counter, my hands shaking. I hide the formula receipts, the crumpled papers detailing my poverty, stuffing them under the thin mattress of my own bed. I smooth the cheap polyester comforter. I try to make the room look not good. It can't look good, but it can't look like squalor. It has to look like the truth. It has to look like I'm trying. Every sound I make, the rustle of the trash bag, the scrape of the chair, makes June stir in her crib. She fusses, her small face crumpling. Sure, baby. Sure, I whisper, picking her up. I bounce her, my heart hammering a rhythm against her small back. Please, June, please go back to sleep just for an hour, please. She settles, her breathing evening out. I lay her back down, my hands trembling. The clock flips. 8:44 p.m. He's coming. After 2 years of silence, he is coming here. I need the evidence. I don't have time to make it pretty. I pull the single flash drive from my pocket. I place it on the small, wobbly table next to the lamp. Beside it, I lay out the forged declination sheet, the one with my middle name misspelled. I open my notebook, the one I've been using as a handwritten ledger. I flip it open to the page where I've listed every denied request, every automated rejection, every STEM mentorship grant to Tessa. And next to that, I place a small 4x6 photo. It's the only one I've had printed. It's from my phone, taken 2 weeks ago. It's June, swaddled in a pink blanket, captured mid-smile. Her eyes squeezed shut in pure, unadulterated joy. The flash drive is the proof. The ledger is the motive. The photo is the wound. I check the chain on the door. I unhook it. He can't think I'm afraid of him. I sit on the edge of the bed, my back rigid. I wait. The minutes stretch, each one a lifetime. The sound of every car slowing on the highway makes me jump. Is it him? Is it Meredith coming to intercept? Is it the police, called by Janine about a donor audit gone wrong? Then a knock. Not a police knock. Not a frantic knock. Just 3 heavy, solid raps on the hollow core door. I stand up. My legs feel like they are filled with wet sand. I open the door. He is alone. He looks older than I remember. Slower. The sharp, custom-tailored coat he always wears seems too big for his shoulders now, hanging loose on his frame. He's 82, and for the first time, he looks it. But then he lifts his head, and his eyes meet mine. They are the same, sharp, clear, and assessing. They are the eyes that built an empire. The eyes that can spot a flaw in a blueprint from 50 yards. He doesn't say hello. He doesn't say my name. He just looks at me, a long, unreadable stare. Then his gaze moves past me into the room. He doesn't notice the peeling wallpaper, or the single lamp. His eyes land instantly on the one thing that shouldn't be there, the one thing that changes the entire story, the crib. He freezes, his hands still on the door frame. He sees the pale blue rails. He sees the folded muslin blanket. He sees the small, red blinking light of the baby monitor on the nightstand. His gaze travels from the crib to the table with the photograph and then finally back to me. His face is pale. I brace myself for the judgment, for the accusation. What have you done? Whose is this? How could you be so foolish? I prepare for the lecture on lane responsibility, on the shame I've brought. Instead, his voice breaks. It's not a crack, it's a complete fracture. A sound I have never, ever heard him make. I didn't know. Just 3 words, and they undo me. All the anger, all the fear I've held for 2 years, it just evaporates, leaving only the deep, aching sorrow. I know you didn't, Grandpa, I whisper. That's why I sent the message. He steps fully into the room, letting the door click shut behind him. He walks past me, his eyes locked on the crib. He reaches out a hand, his long, age-spotted fingers tracing the cheap wooden rail. Who, he starts, but he doesn't need to finish. Her name is Juniper, I say. June. He closes his eyes. He doesn't ask about Colton. He doesn't ask about the father. He understands in that instant that it doesn't matter. He understands my isolation. You're in this room, he says. A statement of fact, not a question. With a child, I confirm. Because of them. I gesture to the table. He turns. The grief on his face is gone, replaced by the man I remember, the magnet, the shark. He picks up the forged declination sheet. He reads it, his eyes narrowing at the misspelled name. I never signed that, I say. I never even saw it. He puts it down and picks up my notebook, his eyes scanning the ledger. He sees the dates, the amounts, the STEM initiative grants next to my hardship denied. His jaw tightens. I can see a muscle working, a small, furious pulse just under his ear. He reads every single line. He doesn't rush. He absorbs the full picture, the theft, the lies, the meticulous, coordinated effort to erase me. He finishes the page, closes the notebook, and places it precisely back on the table. He looks at the baby monitor, then at the flash drive. He doesn't ask what's on it. He knows it's the rest. He is silent for a full minute. The only sounds are the highway, and the soft breathing from the crib. When he finally speaks, his voice is no longer broken. It is cold. It is the voice of a man who is about to liquidate a failing asset. He asks a single question. Who authorized this? I don't need to explain the whole web. He doesn't need the story of Lara Pike or D. Caro. He just needs the head of the snake. I point to the forged declination sheet. At the bottom, in the approved by box, are 2 sets of digital initials timestamped from the week he was in the hospital. M, I say, and GV. Meredith Whitlock, Graham Vale. His aunt, his lawyer, his most trusted inner circle. Elliot Lane nods. A small, sharp movement. He picks up the flash drive and slides it into the pocket of his heavy coat. He doesn't look at the photo of June. He doesn't need to. The real thing is sleeping 5 feet away. He walks to the door and opens it. He turns back to me, his face an unreadable mask of granite. Tomorrow, he says, his voice flat. A command. 10 a.m. Lane Tower, 28th floor, the main conference room. Grandpa, I can't. They'll stop me at the security desk. Meredith will. They won't, he says. I'll be waiting. And Everly, he pauses, his eyes finding mine. And for a second, I see the grandfather, not the magnet. Don't tell anyone. Don't call anyone. Don't even text your man Rayon at the front desk. You walk out of this room at 9:30 and you come straight there. Do you understand me? Yes, I say. Bring the baby. The door clicks shut. He is gone. The lobby of Lane Tower is built to intimidate. It's all soaring ceilings, cold marble, and unnerving silence. The air smells like old money and expensive cleaning chemicals. I walk across the floor, the click of my one good pair of shoes echoing, the heavy diaper bag digging into my shoulder. June is strapped to my chest in a carrier, her small head tucked under my chin, warm and smelling of milk. The security guard at the main desk, a man who has looked through me 100 times before, tenses as I approach. He's reaching for his phone, ready to call for backup to remove the vagrant. Everly Hayes, I say, my voice sounding too loud in the cavernous space. I have a 10 a.m. I'm meeting with Elliot Lane. His eyes widen. He types my name into his terminal. His posture changes. Yes, Ms. Hayes. You're cleared. 28th floor. He buzzes me through the glass turnstile. I don't look back. The elevator ride is silent. A smooth, fast ascent that makes my stomach drop. The doors open onto a reception area of quiet beige luxury. The woman at the desk is wearing a headset and a silk blouse. She looks up, and her professional smile freezes. She sees the diaper bag. She sees the cheap carrier. She sees a problem that has somehow breached the perimeter. "Can I help you?" she asks, her voice tight with disapproval. Everly Hayes for the 10 a.m. review. Before she can answer, the elevator doors open again. Tessa bursts out, all energy and flashing teeth. "Cynthia, darling, we're here. The beneficiary review. We are just grabbing some B-roll for the Legacy series. My followers are dying to see where the magic happens." She is followed by a man with a professional camera on his shoulder and a woman holding a boom microphone. Tessa finally turns and sees me. Her practiced smile falters just for a second. The surprise in her eyes is genuine. She wasn't told I would be here. She thought she was the review. "Everly," she says, recovering instantly, turning her sparkle on the cameraman. "What a surprise. I'm so glad you're here to see this." The receptionist, now completely panicked, presses a button. "Mr. Lane is expecting all of you. Go right in." The conference room is a long, dark expanse of polished mahogany. Framed architectural photos of Elliot's most famous buildings line the walls. At the far end of the table, sitting alone, is my grandfather. Meredith is there, seated at his right hand, looking triumphant. Graham Vale is on his left, his pristine leather briefcase open, a smirk already on his face. And in a chair against the back wall, pale and clutching a folder, is Lara Pike. My heart gives a lurch. Elliot didn't just get my message, he acted. He summoned her. Tessa sweeps in, the camera light flooding the room. "Grandpa, we're here. Just getting a little footage for the brand. This is all so incredible." Meredith looks at me, her eyes narrowing. "Everly, what are you doing here? This is a private meeting." "Cynthia, she's here because I invited her." Elliot's voice cuts through the air like a razor. It silences everyone. He looks at the camera. "Shut it down." "Grandpa, it's just for the blog," Tessa starts. "Gus?" I hadn't even seen Gus standing in the shadows by the door. He steps forward, a man built like a refrigerator, and places his hand over the camera lens. "Mr. Lane said no recording." "You can't do that." "Get out," Gus says. "Wait in reception." The crew, defeated, shuffles out. Tessa is left standing there, her face flushed, her primary weapon neutralized. "Well, that was rude," she mutters, taking a seat far down the table. "Thank you all for attending this beneficiary status review." Elliot begins, his voice the formal corporate tone of a CEO. I can see Meredith and Graham relax. This is the meeting they planned. A review of me, the problem. A review, Elliot continues, which is being converted as of this moment into a trustee emergency session pursuant to Clause 9, subsection B of the Lane Family Preservation Trust bylaws. The change in the room is instantaneous. It's not just a temperature drop, it's a total pressure change. I can feel the oxygen thin out. Graham Vale's pen stops moving. Meredith's smile tightens into a flat line. Clause 9b, Elliot says, his eyes fixed on Graham, regarding suspected trustee fraud or malfeasance, which, as you know, Graham, triggers an immediate and binding audit. Graham finds his voice, though it's a little thinner. Elliot, this is highly irregular. Suspected fraud based on what? Graham asks, his voice a little thinner. The word of a non-compliant, frankly, a destitute beneficiary, who you haven't spoken to in 2 years. Elliot doesn't answer him. He presses a button on the console in front of him. A large screen descends from the ceiling. He takes the small flash drive from his pocket, my flash drive, and slides it into a port. Based on this, he says, and the screen flickers to life. The first image is not a spreadsheet. It's a high-resolution photograph of my motel room, the stained carpet, the peeling wallpaper, the microwave with a baby bottle next to it, and in the center, the crib. Meredith actually scoffs, a small, sharp sound of vindication. This is your proof, Elliot. I agree. This is precisely what I've been trying to protect you from. This is her unstable lifestyle. She's unfit. She reaches into her own folder and slides a piece of paper across the mahogany. It's a photograph, grainy, clearly taken with a long lens from across the street. It's me in my sweatpants, lifting June out of the car seat. This, Meredith says, her voice smooth, was presented to my security team. A clear sign of a high-risk situation. I was preparing to bring it to you myself. She's just confessed. She's just admitted to the surveillance. She has no idea what she's just done. Elliot looks at her photo, then back at the screen. The lifestyle, he says, his voice dangerously quiet, is a direct result of the fraud, not the cause of it. He clicks to the next file. The screen fills with lines of text. Lara Pike's access logs. And this, Elliot says, clicking again. My breath catches. It's the scanned PDF of the forgery, blown up 10 feet tall for the entire room to see. The misspelled middle name, Everly and Hayes. Graham Vale's face goes white. The smirk is gone, replaced by the slack-jawed look of a man who has just seen his own execution warrant. Elliot opens a large leather-bound binder in front of him, the trust. Graham, Elliot says, you drafted this addendum yourself 5 years ago. At my request. The hardship policy, clause 4, subsection 2. All beneficiaries with infant dependents are eligible for immediate stabilization grants for housing and medical care. Please read the clause aloud for the record. Graham stares at the page. He is silent. And yet, Elliot says, cutting him off, my granddaughter was denied this exact provision. Why? Meredith finds her footing. She's a fighter. It's a discretionary clause. Elliot, we are trustees, not a piggy bank. We have a fiduciary duty to protect the assets from waste. Look at her. The motel. The child with no father. Giving her money would be like throwing it into a fire. My office acted with the full intent to protect the trust from a financially unstable lifestyle. This is it. This is the moment. All the fear I've lived with for months drains away, replaced by a cold, sharp clarity. I am not the ungrateful child. I am not the unstable beneficiary. I am the billing analyst, and I have the receipt. I wasn't unstable, I say, my voice calm, but it cuts through the room. Everyone turns to look at me. June stirs in the carrier, and I rest a hand on her back, never breaking eye contact with Meredith. I became unstable, I continue, because your office systematically disabled the very policy my grandfather created to stabilize beneficiaries with children. You didn't just deny my request. You digitally blocked me from ever being able to make it. That is a baseless, slanderous accusation, Graham blusters, shuffling papers, his hands visibly shaking. Is it? Elliot says, and he looks to the back of the room. Ms. Pike. Lara Pike stands up. She looks terrified, but she holds her chin high. Mr. Lane, trustees, she says. She steps forward and places the sealed envelope on the table. I am a junior analyst at Stonebridge Trust. I was subpoenaed by Mr. Lane to be here today. Subpoenaed. He didn't just ask her, he protected her. This is my formal memo filed with the Stonebridge Compliance Department at 8 a.m. this morning, Lara says, her voice gaining strength. It details the administrative overrides placed on Ms. Hayes' beneficiary portal. The portal was locked 8 months ago, flagging her account as non-compliant, which prevents any hardship request from being filed. Meredith is staring at Lara with pure, unadulterated hatred. Lara continues, the overrides were enacted using the administrator credentials, M. Whitlock. Elliot nods. And what of the discretionary fund grants, Ms. Pike? That's outside the scope, Graham starts. It is precisely the scope, Elliot says. He taps an intercom. Print the portal logs for the LFPT discretionary fund. All distributions, the last 5 years. A moment later, an IT technician I've never seen before enters. Hands Elliot a thick stack of freshly printed paper and leaves. Elliot drops the stack on the table. It lands with a heavy, final thud. This, he says, is a record of every dollar spent, and it maps perfectly. He taps the top page. April 28th, 2 years ago, STEM mentorship grant to Rose Quartz Media, $50,000. April 29th, Tessa Whitlock's Instagram, gifted a new car. June 10th, educational enrichment grant, $90,000. June 12th, Tessa Whitlock, family legacy in. Tessa finally finds her voice. I earned that. I'm the face of this family. I'm a brand ambassador. I create value. You created a liability, Elliot snaps, his eyes like steel. Graham Vale stands up, his chair scraping loudly. Elliot, this has gone far enough. This is a circus, not a board meeting. I demand a recess to review these allegations. As counsel, I advise we pause this immediately. Sit down, Graham. Elliot doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't have to. I will not be treated as you will because, pursuant to Clause 9b, subsection 3, no recess shall be granted during a fraud trigger review until the initial findings are entered into the record. You wrote that clause, Graham. You just didn't think it would ever be used on you. Graham Vale sinks back into his chair. He looks like he's aged 20 years in 20 minutes. Elliot turns his attention to the speakerphone in the center of the table. Stonebridge, are you on the line? A tiny, nervous voice replies, we are here, Mr. Lane. You have the findings. You have Ms. Pike's memo. You have the audit trigger. As of this moment, you're instructed to freeze all discretionary distributions and asset transfers to the following entities pending a full forensic report. The Whitlock Foundation, Rose Quartz Media, LLC, and any trust account under the sole signatory power of Meredith Whitlock or Graham Vale. The room is silent. Meredith is as white as the marble in the lobby. Tessa is staring at her phone, as if wondering why it hasn't saved her. Graham is looking at the forged signature on the screen, a man watching his life's work curdle. June stirs, and I rock her gently, my hand on her back. The coup is underway. The boardroom meeting was an amputation. What followed was the septic shock. I left Lane Tower with June asleep on my chest, the heavy diaper bag on one shoulder, and the weight of a war just declared on the other. I walked out of the revolving glass doors into the cold afternoon, and the first shot was fired before I even reached the sidewalk. Tessa was in the lobby, surrounded by the camera crew she had brought and dismissed. She was live-streaming. Her face was a perfect mask of tragic, tear-stained betrayal. I can't even believe it, she sobbed into her phone, her voice catching for her thousands of followers. My own family, my cousin. She's using her child. She let those words hang, letting the venom sink in. She's blackmailing him. She's blackmailing my sweet grandpa, who has only ever been generous. She's trying to tear this family apart, because she's unstable and ungrateful. Tessa's eyes, glistening, found the camera. Please, everyone, just pray for my grandpa. He's being manipulated by a very sick person. The comments flew by in a blur of digital vitriol. We are with you, Tessa. That cousin is jealous trash. How dare she use a baby? The clips went viral within the hour, spreading through the family's country club circle. The narrative was set before I'd even made it back to the motel. I was the blackmailer. Tessa was the victim. The truth of the forged documents, the frozen accounts, the emergency audit, none of it mattered. Tessa had struck first, and she had struck on her turf. Meredith's attack was quieter, sharper, and aimed directly at my throat. The next morning, I walked into Silver Pine Regional Clinic, and Janine pulled me into her office before I could even set my bag down. Her face was pale. "Everly, what in the hell is going on?" she whispered, closing the door. "What is it?" "I just got off the phone with the CEO," Janine said, her voice flat. "He received an email this morning at 7 a.m. from Meredith Whitlock. She accused you of corporate espionage." My stomach tightened into a cold, hard knot. "She claimed you are emotionally compromised and are actively leaking patient data to unauthorized third parties. She demanded your immediate termination." This was it. This was the kill shot. Not just my job, but my future. A termination for a HIPAA violation would mean I could never work in medical billing again. I would be blacklisted. "Janine," I said, my voice shaking. "I swear to you, I have never." "I know," she cut in, holding up a hand. "Which is why I went straight to it. I had them run a full-scope audit on your credentials going back 6 months. She tapped a thick printout on her desk. "You haven't accessed a single patient file outside your direct billing queue. You haven't exported a single document. You haven't even used the office printer for anything non-work related." She leaned forward, her eyes angry. "This is a documented bad faith attempt to get an employee fired. Meredith Whitlock just used her donor status to make a false claim, trying to compromise our data integrity in the process. Our IT director and our legal counsel are furious. This isn't a family spat anymore, Everly." She paused, her voice firm. "She just made it a corporate legal matter for us. So, I'm not fired." I whispered. "No, you're protected. I've been ordered to log every interaction, and you are not to have any contact with her. But this paper," she tapped the IT report again. "This is your proof." She just documented her own attempted character assassination. I took the report, another piece of evidence. I did not respond to Tessa's live stream. I did not issue a statement. I went back to the motel, sat on the floor while June played on the thin carpet, and I opened my laptop. I am a billing analyst. I would fight this with the cold, hard logic of a spreadsheet. I built a timeline. It was neutral, factual, and damning. Column A, date. Column B, LFPT. Action, column G, grant. $1,000 to Rose Quartz Media. Column C, Tessa's public post. E.g., gifted, new car. Column D, my denied request. Column E, Meredith's administrative action. E.g., portal lock, M. Whitlock. I added the new exhibits, Meredith's email to the clinic CEO, the signed IT report from Silver Pine confirming her claim was false, the visitor logs from Lane Tower, proving Tessa arrived with a camera crew for a meeting she expected to win. The fight escalated 2 days later, but not from me. A new Twitter account appeared. 0 followers, no profile picture. Its first tweet was a scanned document, a business registration for an executive notary service owned by Graham Vale. The next tweet was a notary log showing a flurry of after-hours amendments to the Lane Family Preservation Trust. They were all time-stamped during the exact week Elliot was in the hospital. One was dated at 10:14 p.m., another at 2:30 in the morning. The final tweet was just text. Ask Graham Vale what medications Elliot Lane was on when he signed these amendments. Ask him if lucid means sedated. I had no idea who sent it. It could have been Lara. It could have been Gus doing Elliot's dirty work. It didn't matter. The blood was in the water. Graham's reputation for ironclad discretion was gone. Shredded in a few anonymous clicks. My grandfather, it seemed, was moving his own pieces. An email arrived from his personal office, forwarded without comment. It was a formal, notarized statement from his personal physician, Dr. Alastair Finch. It stated in no uncertain terms that during the week in question, Elliot Lane was on a rotation of heavy sedatives and painkillers for his pneumonia and was not, in his professional medical opinion, in a state of sound mind to execute complex legal or financial documents. Elliot was meticulously building the case to invalidate every document Graham and Meredith had created. The press was circling. Tessa's drama, combined with the anonymous tweets, was creating a low-level gossip storm. I got 3 calls from reporters at local business journals. I ignored them all. I would not fight this in public. Instead, I took my file on the Whitlock Foundation, the D. Caro signature, the Silver Pine charity write-off overlap, the clear evidence of self-dealing. I packaged it, cited the relevant state codes, and filed a confidential formal complaint with the State Attorney General's Charitable Trust Unit. I wasn't a disgruntled granddaughter. I was a citizen reporting financial malfeasance at a registered non-profit. I was moving the battleground from the gossip pages to a state investigation. Meredith was cornered. Her funds were frozen. Her lawyer was radioactive. Her reputation at the clinic was compromised. So she did the only thing she had left to do. She lunged. A courier on a bicycle delivered a thick, heavy envelope to the Pinehurst Motel. Rayon signed for it, his face grim as he handed it to me. It was a cease and desist from a new, terrifyingly expensive law firm I'd never heard of. It threatened me with defamation, slander, libel, and tortious interference. It accused me of stealing proprietary documents. It demanded I immediately stop all communication with Elliot Lane and retract my false and malicious statements. It was a blizzard of legal paper designed to scare me into silence. They thought I was a broke, hysterical single mother. They didn't realize I had nothing left to lose. I went to the Motel Business Center, a single ancient desktop computer by the ice machine. I paid the $2 fee and typed my reply to the new lawyer. Dear Counsel, I am in receipt of your letter. I will not be ceasing nor desisting. All documents in my possession were obtained legally and prove, among other things, forgery and fraud pursuant to state law. This email serves as a formal preservation notice for all documents, server logs, emails, and communications related to the LFPT, the Whitlock Foundation, and Rose Quartz Media. Please provide your dates of availability, as I intend to depose your client, Ms. Meredith Whitlock, regarding the fraudulent signature on document LFPT 48B, her unauthorized surveillance of my residence, and her retaliatory contact with my employer. I, a billing analyst living in a motel, had just threatened to depose one of the most powerful women in the city. I hit send. The call came that night. Blocked number. It was Lara Pike. She was sobbing. Everly, they are firing me. They are restructuring my department. I'm being retaliated against. They are walking me out. Lara, I'm so sorry. I'll add this to the complaint. This is illegal. Forget me, she hissed, her voice a desperate, terrified whisper. Listen, the audit is live, but they are stalling. They are shredding. A third-party document management service showed up an hour ago. They are pulling the hard files, the old stuff, the archives that aren't on the server, the old account binders. They are wiping the history. Everly, they are shredding everything. The line went dead. They were destroying the paper trail, the original copies, the blue ink memos, the proof from before the digital forgeries. My hands were shaking. They wouldn't shred at Stonebridge, too many witnesses. They wouldn't shred at Lane Tower. They'd use their own offices, Graham Vale's office. I called the only person I trusted. Ramon, it's Everly. I have the strangest, biggest favor I will ever ask. I need you to check a dumpster. I gave him the address for Graham's small, private law office. They are shredding documents, I whispered, rocking June, who had started to fuss. They probably just emptied the office shredders into the bags, but they might have been sloppy. Please, just look. Ramon was silent for a beat. The silver sedan people, he said. Yes, the silver sedan people. I get off in 20 minutes, he said. I'll go. An hour later, an hour I spent pacing the 6 feet of my motel room, my phone buzzed. It was a picture message from Ramon. It was the alley behind Graham's office. Next to the main dumpster were 2 large, clear plastic bags packed tight with shredded paper. And next to those bags, tossed aside in their panic, were 3 intact, navy blue, 3-ring binders. Ramon zoomed in on the spine of one. The gold lettering was sharp in the flash. LFPT prior years. Trusty copies. They missed them. In their haste to destroy the new evidence, they had tossed the old archives. My reply was instant. Get them. Get them now. Put them in your trunk. I wrapped June in a blanket, strapped her into the carrier, and met Ramon at an all-night diner. He popped the trunk. They were real. Ramon, I said, my voice thick, you just saved my life. They are just binders. No, I said, lifting one. It was heavy with paper. They are the truth. I didn't go back to the motel. I drove to the Moss and 3rd Transit Hub. I sat on the floor of the bus station bathroom at 2 in the morning. I photographed every single page, the original trust doctrine, the blue ink signatures, the handwritten notes from my grandfather years before his stroke detailing his intent for the hardship policy. I logged the chain of custody in my notebook. Retrieved by Ramon. Time, location, transferred to photographed. Original secured. I put the binders in a locker. I put the key in my shoe. Meredith and Graham could shred all they wanted. I had the originals. The war was being fought in cease and desist letters and secret document drops. But the front line was still room 214. The fight was still waged in increments of 3 ounces of formula in the dim pink neon glow of the Pinehurst sign. The night feedings became my metronome, 2 a.m., 4:30 a.m. The world outside was silent. The highway a distant rush. But in this room, there was the small, demanding cry of my daughter and the quiet ritual of satisfying it. I would sit on the edge of the bed, the bottle propped just right, and I would look at June's face in the dark. We only have to do this once, I whispered to her, my voice rough with sleep. We get one shot to make this right. And when we are through, I promise you, you will never know a room like this. You will never have to wonder if you are worth protecting. I am recording the truth for you, June, so you never have to fight for it. In those quiet, lonely hours, the past felt incredibly close. The anger I felt at Meredith wasn't just about the stolen money. It was about the stolen narrative. I was 19, a sophomore in college, and my tuition bill was suddenly, inexplicably past due. I called home, confused. My mother, her voice thin with a shame that wasn't hers, told me what she knew. Honey, I don't know what happened. I called Meredith. She said, Grandpa reviewed your grades and he's decided to stop paying. He feels you're not applying yourself to the family legacy. Not applying myself. I had a 3.9 GPA, and was working 30 hours a week at the campus library. The same week, Tessa, who had flunked out of a community college, was installed at Lane Tower as Grandpa's new executive helper. Her first project was redecorating his private lounge. The message was clear. I wasn't the right kind of granddaughter. I wasn't compliant. I wasn't the shiny, reflective surface Tessa was. So, I took out the loans. I got a second job, waitressing. Coming home, at 1 o'clock in the morning smelling of fried food to write a paper on economic theory. I did it. I graduated. But I carried the wound of that rejection, the belief that my grandfather, the man I admired, had looked at my hard work and found it lacking. I had to admit it to myself, sitting there in the dark with June. 4 years, I wanted his approval even more than I wanted the money. I just wanted him to turn to me, just once, and say, well done. Now, that desire was gone, burned away. I didn't want his approval. I just wanted the truth entered into the record. I wanted the forgery, with my misspelled name, to be the only thing they remembered of this. The day after Ramon secured the binders, Gus called. Blocked number, as always. He wants to see you again, Gus said. No preamble. I'm not coming to the tower. He's at the diner. The one on Moss. He wants to talk alone. I'll be there in 10. I bundled June, went to the diner, and saw the black sedan idling in the parking lot. Gus was in the driver's seat. He rolled down the passenger window as I approached, the diaper bag digging into my shoulder. He's not in the diner, Gus said, his eyes checking the street. He's in the car. Get in the back. I got in. The back of the sedan was like a different world, all black leather and silence. Elliot was sitting there, staring out the window. He looked exhausted. You're not safe at the motel, he said, not looking at me. She knows where you are. After tomorrow, you'll move. What's tomorrow? The vote. He paused. But that's not why I'm here. He turned to me. Gus told me what you did. The binders. He told me about your man Ramon. They were shredding, I said. Lara called me. He nodded, a slow, heavy movement. Meredith has intercepted my visitors for years, Gus says. She brings me filtered reports. She manages my schedule, my calls. She wrapped the entire penthouse in velvet-wrapped lies. His voice was heavy, not with anger, but with a profound, bone-deep weariness. He was realizing the cage he'd been living in. The man she showed me, this Everly, was a spoiled, ungrateful girl demanding handouts. Not this, he gestured at me, at June, asleep in my arms. She built a narrative, I said. And she used my silence to prove it was true. She did, he said. He was quiet for a long time. Then he looked at June. May I? My heart stuttered. I hesitated, a protective instinct so strong it was almost violent. But I looked at his face. He wasn't the magnet. He was just an old man. I carefully, slowly transferred June's small, warm weight into his arms. He was clumsy. His hands, so used to signing directives and holding blueprints, looked huge and awkward. But he held her. He held his great-granddaughter. He looked down at her face, and his own, which I'd only ever seen as granite, seemed to crumble. He just stared at her, his breathing unsteady. I need a shower, I said, the words tumbling out. The motel, he said, his voice thick. The shower head is broken. It's either ice cold or scalding. And the water pressure. I can't. Not with her. Gus, Elliot said, his voice a command, never taking his eyes off June. Go to the front desk at the Pinehurst. Get the key for the room next to hers, the one we are holding. Give it to Everly. You stay with me in the car. We'll wait. Gus nodded and was gone. He came back 2 minutes later, pressed a key card into my hand. I walked back to the motel. I unlocked room 216. It was identical to mine, but clean, unused. I locked the door, and for the first time in weeks, I stepped into a shower without one ear trained on a baby monitor. I stood under the hot, steady stream of water for 10 minutes. I let it run over my face, washing away the motel grime, the exhaustion, the fear. I cried silently, letting the water take the tears. It was the greatest luxury I had ever known. When I came back, towel drying my hair, I felt almost human. I knocked on the sedan's window. Gus opened the door. Elliot was still in the back seat, exactly as I had left him, holding June. She was awake, her eyes wide, staring up at him. He was rocking her, a small, rhythmic motion. He hadn't panicked. He hadn't called for me. He had simply held her. I slid in. She didn't cry, he said. A note of wonder in his voice. She's a good baby. He told me a story then, his voice quiet, his eyes still on June. I grew up in a 2-room flat. My brother and I, we slept on the floor. When my sister was born, my father, he wasn't a good man. He didn't provide. My mother made her a crib out of 2 orange crates he'd left in the alley. She lined it with newspaper, and her own winter coat. He looked at me, his eyes sharp. That's why I built this. This empire, so that no one in my family would ever have to sleep in a crate. Money is a tool, Everly. It's a hammer to build, a shield to protect. He looked down at June, his face hardening. They turned it into a leash and a cage and a weapon. He carefully handed June back to me. The transfer was smoother this time. We both knew what we were doing. I will fix this, he said. How? I asked, settling June against my chest. You can write me a check. You can buy me a condo, and set up a trust for June. And in a year, Meredith will have you convinced it was all a settlement for my emotional distress. In 2 years, she'll have you convinced I extorted you. The lie will be stronger than the truth. What do you want, then he asked. I met his gaze. I drew the boundary. I don't want a check, Grandpa. I want a cleansing. I want this fixed institutionally. I want the bylaws rewritten. I want her removed as a trustee. I want Graham Vale disbarred. I want the money she stole from the trust paid back. Not by you, but by her. I want the truth recorded in the minutes so that 50 years from now, when June is a woman, she can read the record and know that her mother was not a liar. He was silent. He saw the steel in me, the part of him that lived in me. He respected it. He nodded once. Then we will do it that way. But I need my weapons. You have the binders. But I need the denials. Every email, every automated rejection, every non-compliant stamp. I want to build a mountain of their lies. He looked at his watch. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., my office, not the conference room. My private office. Bring me every single denial. He and Gus drove away. I went back to my room. There was no time to sleep. I opened my laptop. I gathered every file, every screenshot, every forwarded email. I didn't just have my denials. I had Lara's logs. I had the clinic IT report. I had the timeline. It was 142 pages. I put the file on the flash drive. I went to the front desk. Ramon was on duty. I need to print, I said, a lot. Business center's closed, he said, not looking up. Ramon, please. This is the last time. He sighed. He looked at the flash drive. How many sets? 3, I said. All 142 pages, tabbed. If you have any. He unlocked the back office. It's on my employee code, he said. The machine's faster. Go sit down. I'll bring it to your room. An hour later, an hour I spent pacing the 6 feet of my motel room, he knocked, holding 3 thick, neatly bound stacks of paper. He had even used color ink for the forged signature, the red declined stamps burning on the page. I didn't sleep. I sat in the single armchair, June's crib next to me. I slept in 20-minute bursts, sitting up, my hand on the diaper bag. Inside was one of the printed binders, the original flash drive, and a spare bottle of formula. I was ready. The day after I delivered the binders, Elliot moved. He didn't just suggest an audit. He executed it. He brought in Stonebridge Trust's nuclear option, Priya Nair. She was the head of their independent auditing division, a woman with a reputation for finding financial needles in concrete haystacks. She wasn't an ally, she was an algorithm, which was better. She was immune to Meredith's charm and Graham's bluster. I was looped into the initial video conference from my laptop, the screen balanced on the motel desk, June asleep in the crib behind me. My role was simple, beneficiary providing testimony. Priya was all business. We are beginning a full line-item review of all discretionary accounts, starting with the Whitlock-affiliated entities, she stated. Her voice crisp. Graham Vale was on the call, looking hollowed out, his usual smirk gone. Meredith was not. She had, according to the minutes, refused to dignify this hostile takeover. It didn't take Priya long, less than 24 hours. Mr. Lane, she reported on the next call, we have the first major discrepancy. There is no conflict of interest matrix on file for Rose Quartz Media, or the Whitlock Foundation, as per the trust bylaws. Ms. Whitlock, as a trustee, was required to file this before approving any grants to an entity from which her immediate family, namely her daughter Tessa, benefits. Graham tried to speak, his voice thin. A simple clerical error. I'm sure it's a misfiling. Priya didn't even look at him. She was addressing Elliot. It's not a clerical error, Mr. Vale. It's a foundational breach. The absence of the matrix means every grant she approved is suspect, and under the terms of the trust, likely void. That was all Elliot needed. He had the binders Ramon found, the ones with his original blue ink notes. He knew the trust better than Graham ever did. He scheduled an emergency trustee call. Meredith was forced to attend this time. Her non-attendance would be noted as a confession. I was present again, a silent icon in the corner of the screen. We are invoking 2 clauses simultaneously, Elliot announced. His voice was no longer weary. It was the voice of the man who built the skyline. And now, based on Ms. Nair's findings, Clause 11D. I had the binder open on my bed. I knew 11D by heart. If any trustee materially benefits, directly or indirectly, from a grant they approved, that trustee's vote is rendered void ab initio from the beginning, and said trustee is subject to immediate removal for cause. You can't do this. Meredith was shouting now, her face distorted on the screen. This is an ambush. This is patriarchal control. You are an old, senile man trying to punish me for being a competent woman. You are letting her. Her gaze seemed to burn through the camera at me. Destroy this family. Priya Nair cut in, her voice glacial, unimpressed. Ms. Whitlock, she said, her voice glacial, unimpressed. This is not about gender. It is about governance and signatures. She shared her screen. On one side was Elliot's signature from 2015, strong, sharp, and angular. On the other was the signature from the hospital amendments, the ones Graham had notarized in the middle of the night. It was shaky, rounded, the L incomplete. Our forensic analyst confirms these signatures do not match Mr. Lane's pre-stroke samples. Priya said they do, however, match control samples taken while a subject is under heavy sedation. This audit is now a fraud investigation. Effective immediately, Elliot said, his voice cutting through Meredith's sputtering. Meredith Whitlock's trustee powers are temporarily suspended. Graham Vale, you are placed on administrative leave as counsel for the trust, pending a full review by the Bar Association. The call ended. The silence in the motel room was absolute. The suspension of Meredith's powers triggered the financial stability clauses in Tessa's many brand partnerships. Her sponsors, the ones paying for the gifted lifestyle, got cold feet. A skincare brand released a statement, pending family governance stability, we are pausing our collaboration with Ms. Whitlock. Tessa naturally exploded. She went public again. Not a live stream this time, but a formal, tear-stained post on her Instagram. I am being attacked by a jealous, vindictive family member, she wrote. My career, which I built from nothing, is being ruined by her lies and manipulation. I am exploring all my legal options, and I will be suing her for defamation. I read the post. I watched the likes and sympathetic comments roll in from her followers. Then, 45 minutes later, I refreshed the page. The post was gone. She had quietly archived it. Her new lawyer, undoubtedly cheaper than her mother's, must have explained what the legal term discovery meant. He must have told her that suing me for defamation would allow my lawyer to depose her under oath about every single STEM mentorship grant she had ever received. She was a coward. All bark and no bite. My fight was quieter. While Tessa was posting and deleting, I was filing. I'd found a legal aid lawyer, a sharp woman named Helen, who worked on contingency, who saw the forged signature and the clinic IT report and took the case. We filed a motion ex parte, meaning Meredith wouldn't be present to argue against it, for an immediate preservation order on all Whitlock Foundation records. A judge granted it within hours, citing the evidence from the shredded binders, a clear pattern of active destruction of documents. The timing was perfect. We knew from Tessa's Instagram, before she deleted it, that the Whitlock Foundation was hosting its annual donor appreciation launch party that night at a downtown hotel. A court-appointed courier, not me, walked straight onto the red carpet, past the velvet ropes, and into the middle of the cocktail party. He handed Meredith Whitlock, who was mid-sip of champagne, the sealed court order. He did it in front of all her high society donors, in front of the society reporters. She was now legally barred from touching, deleting, or shredding a single file related to her own foundation. The State Attorney General's office was now officially watching. The preservation order worked. Priya's auditing team, now working with the AG's office, gained access to the Foundation's full, unredacted servers, and they found the slush fund. It was a hidden sub-account, buried layers deep in the accounting software, labeled simply emergencies. Priya called me directly, her voice for the first time holding a trace of something other than professional detachment. Everly, she said, bouncing June who had started to fuss. I thought you should see this. We've been tracking expenditures from this emergencies account. We found a series of payments totaling over $50,000 to a PR narrative shaping firm. So, I said, bouncing June. The dates, Priya said, the payments were authorized the exact same week you were in the hospital giving birth. The same week your non-compliant beneficiary status was finalized. My blood ran cold. While I was in a hospital bed recovering from a C-section, she was spending $50,000 to manufacture the ungrateful granddaughter story, to plant the seeds of my instability before I had even held my child. She wasn't just reacting to me. She had planned my downfall. The audit was a floodgate. Elliot, seeing the full scope of the rot, signed a sweeping directive. It was sent to all beneficiaries. He ordered Stonebridge to immediately reopen all hardship portals. He authorized retroactive grants with interest to all qualifying beneficiaries who had been wrongfully denied in the past 5 years. My name was at the top of the list. But Priya wasn't done. She was methodical. "One last thing, Everly," she said on our final call. "You mentioned your employer, the Silver Pine Regional Clinic. I'd like to see the donor memo Meredith Whitlock sent to your CEO." I forwarded it all. The email from Meredith, Janine's formal IT report proving it was a lie. "Thank you," Priya said. "This is not a trust matter, strictly speaking, but it is a governance matter. It shows a clear pattern of retaliatory behavior and an attempt to leverage donor status to influence a corporate entity. It's a severe governance violation. It will be logged for the record in my final report." The machine was now operating. The facts were logged. The accounts were frozen. The lies were exposed by forensics. Elliot had everything he needed. A final and formal email went out from his personal office, to the independent trustees at Stonebridge, to Meredith as a non-voting attendee, and to me as a beneficiary in good standing. A full trustee vote is scheduled to reconstitute the Lane Family Preservation Trust. Week's end, Friday, 10 a.m. Your attendance is mandatory. The end was here. The vote was scheduled for Friday. The days leading up to it were a gauntlet. The war was no longer a cold one fought in spreadsheets and audit reports. It had become a hot, desperate, hand-to-hand fight. I had to go to Lane Tower on Wednesday for a final pre-meeting with Priya Nair and Elliot's new independent counsel. I took the stairs to the 28th floor, avoiding the main elevator, my senses on high alert. She was waiting for me in the fire escape halfway up. The concrete walls amplifying the cold. "Everly?" "Meredith." She wasn't the polished trustee today. Her eyes were bloodshot, her face tight with a fury that seemed to vibrate. She was an animal backed into a corner. "This doesn't need to be so ugly," she said, her voice a low, strained hiss. "He's an old man. You've confused him. You've poisoned him against me, against his own family. He saw the proof, Meredith. That's all." "Proof?" She scoffed, as if the word was filth. She reached into her expensive coat pocket and pulled out a thick, cream-colored envelope. She held it out. "This is a settlement, a formal offer. It's more than generous enough for you and the child to disappear. Find a nice, quiet life far away. You sign the papers. The audit stops, and everyone can heal. A hush money offer, an NDA, a cage." I looked at the envelope, at the life she was offering me, a life of silence paid for by my own silence. I thought about the mold in the motel shower, about the terror I felt every time a car idled outside. "I'm not for sale," I said. I pushed the envelope back. Her eyes narrowed. "But your paper trail is," I added. I pulled my phone from my pocket. I opened the voice memo app. The small red circle glowed, indicating it was recording. I held it between us. "Was that a formal settlement offer, Meredith? Are you offering to buy my silence in an active fraud investigation? Is this contingent on me signing an NDA and retracting my testimony with the auditor?" For a second, I thought she would lunge. I saw her hand clench, the perfectly manicured nails digging into her palm. She understood. I wasn't just refusing, I was gathering new evidence. I was logging her attempt to subvert the audit. "You pathetic little..." She snarled, but she stopped. She saw the phone. She was trapped. She turned and stormed down the stairs, her heels striking the concrete like angry gunshots. I saved the recording. One more file for Priya. When I reached the lobby an hour later, the next attack came. It was Tessa. She must have been waiting. The camera crew was back, the bright, blinding light hitting me as soon as I stepped off the elevator. Everly! Everly! Tessa shoved a microphone toward my face, her own a mask of practiced tragedy. Do you have any comment? Do you regret weaponizing a baby to get what you want? Was it worth it? Was destroying your entire family worth it just to get a payout? I instinctively turned, shielding June's face from the light, my hand on the back of her head. The questions were rapid fire, designed to provoke a reaction, to get a clip of me looking angry, unstable. Do you regret blackmailing your grandfather? Do you? That's enough. A new voice, sharp and authoritative, the head of Lane Tower Security, a man named Frank, stepped between us. He wasn't on Tessa's payroll. He was on Elliot's. Back off, Ms. Whitlock, he said, his voice firm. The cameras are not permitted in the lobby. I told you this. Shut it down. This is harassment. Tessa shrieked, playing to her camera. No, Frank said, his voice bored. This is trespassing. You and your crew need to leave now. As the security guard began to usher the sputtering, indignant crew toward the doors, I looked up. Far above us, on the glass-paneled mezzanine that overlooked the main lobby, my grandfather was standing. He was still, his hands clasped behind his back. He had watched the entire ugly scene. He had seen Tessa, not as the curated, gifted granddaughter, but as a snarling, frantic stranger attacking a mother and a child. His face was granite. He didn't move. He just watched until she was gone. That night, there was a knock on my motel room door. My heart leapt into my throat, my hand flying to the chain. Everly, it was Gus. I looked through the peephole. He was alone. I opened the door. He was holding a simple, locked leather document box. Mr. Lane wanted you to have these, he said, his voice a low rumble. He said you'd know what to do with them. He also said, and I quote, "It's time you had the originals." He handed me the box and a small key. He left. I locked the door, my hands shaking. I sat on the floor and opened it. They weren't binders. They were journals. His personal blue ink journals, the ones I hadn't seen since I was a child. They were filled with his sharp, angular handwriting detailing his philosophy, his deals, his vision. I found the section from 1998, when he'd first created the trust. I read his words, his original intent, to provide a floor, not a ceiling, to be a shield for the blood, not a weapon for the greedy. I kept turning, and then I found it, a single page, dated almost 10 years later, after some other long-forgotten family dispute. The page was labeled simply, "If they misuse this." It was a roadmap. It detailed his exact wishes for a trustee removal for cause. It outlined the independent audit, the full vote, the exact clauses, including 11D, that he had put in place as a dead man's switch. He had anticipated a Meredith. He had left a map for me, and I hadn't even known it. I was staring at the page, my mind reeling. When my phone rang, it was Ramon. His voice was not his usual calm monotone. It was sharp, panicked. "Everly, you have to get out of there. You have to go right now." "Ramon, what's wrong?" I stood up, clutching June. Two men, they weren't guests. They didn't come to the desk. I saw them on the side camera, by the ice machine. They tried your door first with a key card that didn't work. Then they tried to shoulder it. I hit the silent alarm and called precinct security. They ran. They got into a silver sedan. The same one. My blood turned to ice. They weren't using lawyers anymore. My daughter's crib, I whispered, my eyes flying to it. "It's here," he said, his voice tight. It's in the office behind the desk with me. I saw them on the camera walking the hall, trying doors. I had a bad feeling. I went to your room 10 minutes ago. Used my master key. I grabbed the crib and the diaper bag. I moved it. I changed the physical lock on your door, but it won't hold. You're not safe, Everly. They are not just watching anymore. You have to go. I hung up. I grabbed the journals, the binders, my laptop. I left the room, leaving everything else behind. I drove to the nearest 24-hour police precinct. I sat under the fluorescent lights at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I filed a police report. Attempted breaking and entering, stalking. I named Meredith Whitlock and Graham Vale as parties in an ongoing civil and financial dispute who had previously engaged in retaliatory actions. I got the incident number. The first email I sent was to Priya Nair. I attached a scan of the report. Please append this to the audit's retaliation log. The opposition has escalated to physical intimidation. We spent that night in a different motel, an hour out of the city, one I paid for in cash under a false name. The police report, on top of the financial evidence, sent the Stonebridge Board of Directors into a full-blown panic. They were spooked. This wasn't a quiet family squabble anymore. It involved the police, the Attorney General, and the press. Gus told me later that the board's chairman called Elliot personally, urging him, begging him to smooth this quietly, settle, sign the NDAs, bury it, make it go away before it tainted the entire Lane Stonebridge portfolio. Elliot's response was simple. Quiet created this. We will be finishing this in the light. Meredith's new lawyer, the expensive one, tried one last public maneuver. He leaked a carefully drafted story to a friendly gossip columnist, troubled granddaughter's schemes to seize Lane fortune. It painted me as a grifter, a vindictive con artist, and Meredith as the long-suffering trustee trying to protect a beloved patriarch. The columnist, doing her due diligence, called Priya Nair for comment. Priya, bound by her own professional code, gave a devastatingly neutral statement. We cannot comment on family dynamics, she said. Stonebridge is currently conducting an ongoing governance review regarding trustee malfeasance and documented financial irregularities. A full report is forthcoming. Malfeasance. Irregularities. The official, cold. Corporate words were 1,000 times more damning than schemes. The gossip story was dead on arrival. The night before the vote, Elliot summoned me to the penthouse. I walked into the study. The first time I'd been there in almost 3 years, he was sitting in his armchair, looking out at the city lights. This ends tomorrow, he said, his voice quiet. One way or another, Meredith will be removed. Graham will be referred to the bar. The state will likely file charges based on Priya's report. It will be a mess. He turned to me, his eyes sharp. The same eyes that had assessed me in the motel room. But if this ends how it should, what do you want, Everly? After all this, tell me the truth. I thought about the money. I thought about the houses, the cars, the power. I thought about the 6-figure gift that had vanished. I want 2 things, I said, my voice as steady as his. First, I want my kid's crib out of a motel for good. That's done, he said. Second, I continued, I want a new clause, a full amendment to the trust. A Tessa clause. He raised an eyebrow. It will explicitly forbid any beneficiary from ever using their trust-funded lifestyle, or the Lane family name, as part of a brand or legacy to acquire personal profit or gifts. Rose Quartz Media will be dissolved and the funds returned to the trust. I don't ever want another person's child, I said, my voice hardening, to have their basic needs weighed against an influencer's brand partnerships ever again. He was silent for a long moment. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, he nodded. A slow, Final gesture. I see, he said. Good. He stood up. Straighter than I'd seen him in years. Be there at 10 a.m. Come to the vote. The vote was scheduled for Friday. The days leading up to it were a gauntlet. The war was no longer a cold one, fought in spreadsheets and audit reports. It had become a hot, desperate, hand-to-hand fight. I had to go to Lane Tower on Wednesday for a final pre-meeting with Priya Na and Elliot's new independent counsel. I took the stairs to the 28th floor, avoiding the main elevator, my senses on high alert. She was waiting for me in the fire escape. Halfway up, the concrete walls amplifying the cold. Everly? Meredith. She wasn't the polished trustee today. Her eyes were bloodshot, her face tight with a fury that seemed to vibrate. She was an animal backed into a corner. This doesn't need to be so ugly, she said, her voice a low, strained hiss. He's an old man. You've confused him. You've poisoned him against me, against his own family. He saw the proof, Meredith. That's all. Proof? She scoffed, as if the word was filth. She reached into her expensive coat pocket and pulled out a thick, cream-colored envelope. She held it out. This is a settlement, a formal offer. It's more than generous enough for you and the child to disappear. Find a nice, quiet life far away. You sign the papers. The audit stops, and everyone can heal. A hush money offer, an NDA, a cage. I looked at the envelope, at the life she was offering me, a life of silence paid for by my own silence. I thought about the mold in the motel shower, about the terror I felt every time a car idled outside. I'm not for sale, I said. I pushed the envelope back. Her eyes narrowed. But your paper trail is, I added. I pulled my phone from my pocket. I opened the voice memo app. The small red circle glowed, indicating it was recording. I held it between us. Was that a formal settlement offer, Meredith? Are you offering to buy my silence in an active fraud investigation? Is this contingent on me signing an NDA and retracting my testimony with the auditor? For a second, I thought she would lunge. I saw her hand clench, the perfectly manicured nails digging into her palm. She understood. I wasn't just refusing, I was gathering new evidence. I was logging her attempt to subvert the audit. You pathetic little. She snarled, but she stopped. She saw the phone. She was trapped. She turned and stormed down the stairs, her heels striking the concrete like angry gunshots. I saved the recording. One more file for Priya. When I reached the lobby an hour later, the next attack came. It was Tessa. She must have been waiting. The camera crew was back, the bright, blinding light hitting me as soon as I stepped off the elevator. Everly. Everly. Tessa shoved a microphone toward my face, her own a mask of practiced tragedy. Do you have any comment? Do you regret weaponizing a baby to get what you want? Was it worth it? Was destroying your entire family worth it just to get a payout? I instinctively turned, shielding June's face from the light, my hand on the back of her head. The questions were rapid fire, designed to provoke a reaction, to get a clip of me looking angry, unstable. Do you regret blackmailing your grandfather? Do you? That's enough. A new voice, sharp and authoritative, the head of Lane Tower Security, a man named Frank, stepped between us. He wasn't on Tessa's payroll. He was on Elliot's. Back off, Ms. Whitlock, he said, his voice firm. The cameras are not permitted in the lobby. I told you this. Shut it down. This is harassment. Tessa shrieked, playing to her camera. No, Frank said, his voice bored. This is trespassing. You and your crew need to leave now. As the security guard began to usher the sputtering, indignant crew toward the doors, I looked up. Far above us, on the glass-paneled mezzanine that overlooked the main lobby, my grandfather was standing. He was still, his hands clasped behind his back. He had watched the entire ugly scene. He had seen Tessa, not as the curated, gifted granddaughter, but as a snarling, frantic stranger attacking a mother and a child. His face was granite. He didn't move. He just watched until she was gone. That night, there was a knock on my motel room door. My heart leapt into my throat, my hand flying to the chain. Everly, it was Gus. I looked through the peephole. He was alone. I opened the door. He was holding a simple, locked leather document box. "Mr. Lane wanted you to have these," he said, his voice a low rumble. "He said you'd know what to do with them. He also said, and I quote, 'It's time you had the originals.'" He handed me the box and a small key. He left. I locked the door, my hands shaking. I sat on the floor and opened it. They weren't binders. They were journals. His personal blue ink journals, the ones I hadn't seen since I was a child. They were filled with his sharp, angular handwriting detailing his philosophy, his deals, his vision. I found the section from 1998, when he'd first created the trust. I read his words, his original intent, to provide a floor, not a ceiling, to be a shield for the blood, not a weapon for the greedy. I kept turning, and then I found it, a single page, dated almost 10 years later, after some other long-forgotten family dispute. The page was labeled simply, "If they misuse this." It was a roadmap. It detailed his exact wishes for a trustee removal for cause. It outlined the independent audit, the full vote, the exact clauses, including 11D, that he had put in place as a dead man's switch. He had anticipated a Meredith. He had left a map for me, and I hadn't even known it. I was staring at the page, my mind reeling. When my phone rang, it was Ramon. His voice was not his usual calm monotone. It was sharp, panicked. "Everly, you have to get out of there. Everly, you have to get out of there. You have to go right now." "Ramon, what's wrong?" I stood up, clutching June. Two men, they weren't guests. They didn't come to the desk. I saw them on the side camera, by the ice machine. They tried your door first with a key card that didn't work. Then they tried to shoulder it. I hit the silent alarm and called precinct security. They ran. They got into a silver sedan. The same one. My blood turned to ice. They weren't using lawyers anymore. My daughter's crib," I whispered, my eyes flying to it. "It's here," he said, his voice tight. "It's in the office behind the desk with me." I saw them on the camera walking the hall, trying doors. I had a bad feeling. "I went to your room 10 minutes ago, used my master key. I grabbed the crib and the diaper bag. I moved it. I changed the physical lock on your door, but it won't hold. You're not safe, Everly. They are not just watching anymore. You have to go." I hung up. I grabbed the journals, the binders, my laptop. I left the room, leaving everything else behind. I drove to the nearest 24-hour police precinct. I sat under the fluorescent lights at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I filed a police report. Attempted breaking and entering, stalking. I named Meredith Whitlock and Graham Vale as parties in an ongoing civil and financial dispute who had previously engaged in retaliatory actions. I got the incident number. The first email I sent was to Priya Nair. I attached a scan of the report. "Please append this to the audit's retaliation log. The opposition has escalated to physical intimidation. We spent that night in a different motel, an hour out of the city, one I paid for in cash under a false name." The police report, on top of the financial evidence, sent the Stonebridge Board of Directors into a full-blown panic. They were spooked. This wasn't a quiet family squabble anymore. It involved the police, the Attorney General, and the press. Gus told me later that the board's chairman called Elliot personally, urging him, begging him to smooth this quietly. Settle, sign the NDAs, bury it, make it go away before it tainted the entire Lane Stonebridge portfolio. Elliot's response was simple. Quiet created this. We will be finishing this in the light. Meredith's new lawyer, the expensive one, tried one last public maneuver. He leaked a carefully drafted story to a friendly gossip columnist, troubled granddaughter's schemes to seize Lane fortune. It painted me as a grifter, a vindictive con artist, and Meredith as the long-suffering trustee trying to protect a beloved patriarch. The columnist, doing her due diligence, called Priya Nair for comment. Priya, bound by her own professional code, gave a devastatingly neutral statement. We cannot comment on family dynamics, she said. Stonebridge is currently conducting an ongoing governance review regarding trustee malfeasance and documented financial irregularities. A full report is forthcoming. Malfeasance. Irregularities. The official, cold. Corporate words were 1,000 times more damning than schemes. The gossip story was dead on arrival. The night before the vote, Elliot summoned me to the penthouse. I walked into the study. The first time I'd been there in almost 3 years, he was sitting in his armchair, looking out at the city lights. This ends tomorrow, he said, his voice quiet. One way or another, Meredith will be removed. Graham will be referred to the bar. The state will likely file charges based on Priya's report. It will be a mess. He turned to me, his eyes sharp, the same eyes that had assessed me in the motel room. But if this ends how it should, what do you want, Everly? After all this, tell me the truth. I thought about the money. I thought about the houses, the cars, the power. I thought about the 6-figure gift that had vanished. I want 2 things, I said, my voice as steady as his. First, I want my kid's crib out of a motel for good. That's done, he said. Second, I continued, I want a new clause, a full amendment to the trust. A Tessa clause. He raised an eyebrow. It will explicitly forbid any beneficiary from ever using their trust-funded lifestyle, or the Lane family name, as part of a brand or legacy to acquire personal profit or gifts. Rose Quartz Media will be dissolved and the funds returned to the trust. I don't ever want another person's child, I said, my voice hardening, to have their basic needs weighed against an influencer's brand partnerships ever again. He was silent for a long moment. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, he nodded. A slow, final gesture. I see, he said. Good. He stood up, straighter than I'd seen him in years. Be there at 10 a.m. Come to the vote. The conference room on the 28th floor was where empires were built. The walls were lined with heavy framed photographs of the buildings Elliot had raised from dirt. Monuments to a lifetime of concrete and steel. Each one a testament to his will. We sat at the same polished mahogany table. But the air was not just cold. It was sterile. The pressurized silence of an operating theater before the first incision. Priya Nair stood at the head of the table. She was no longer just an auditor, she was an executioner. She had the full attention of the 2 independent trustees, Elliot, and the pale, sweating lawyers from Stonebridge. The independent audit is complete, she stated, her voice crisp, devoid of emotion. Her findings were projected onto the large screen. She laid it out. The forged amendments notarized by Graham Vale at 2:30 in the morning while Elliot's physician confirmed he was on a heavy sedative drip. The conflicted grants. A perfect 1-to-1 correlation between STEM mentorship initiative payments to Rose Quartz Media and Tessa's documented luxury purchases. And finally, the retaliatory interference, the falsified report to Silver Pine Clinic. The police incident number from the attempted break-in at the Pinehurst Motel, and the $50,000 invoices for PR narrative shaping from the week I was giving birth. Elliot listened to the entire presentation, his face an impassive mask of granite. When Priya finished, he did not pause. He did not ask for comment. He looked at the two independent trustees. "We will now call the vote," he announced. "We are voting under Clause 11D for removal for cause, and Clause 14A for the immediate reconstitution of this trust. The motion on the floor is this: the immediate and permanent removal of Meredith Whitlock as trustee, the termination of Graham Vale as counsel for the Lane Family Preservation Trust, and a formal referral of this entire audit report to the State Attorney General's Office for Criminal Review." "You will not." Meredith's voice was a raw scream. She shot to her feet, her chair scraping violently against the floor. "This is an illegal ambush. I will fight this in court. I will sue every single person in this room. I will drag this family through the press for a decade. You have no proof. You have nothing." Priya Nair didn't flinch. "You are mistaken, Ms. Whitlock," she said, her voice still quiet. "Clinical. We have the proof. You were simply sloppy when you tried to destroy it." Priya signaled to Gus, who was standing by the door. He opened it. Ramon walked in. He was wearing his clean, pressed Pinehurst Motel uniform, his hands clasped in front of him, looking terrified but resolute. Meredith looked at him, a complete stranger with blank confusion. "You shredded the recent documents," Priya continued. "But in your haste, you threw out the original hard copy archive binders. Mr. Ramon here preserved them from the alley behind Mr. Vale's office. He is present today to attest under oath to the chain of custody." Meredith's face crumpled. She looked at Ramon. This nobody, this minimum wage clerk who had just personally undone her entire life. Graham Vale, who understood the legal implications of a witness to the destruction of evidence, just sank lower in his chair. A man already dead. Before Meredith could find her voice, the main conference room doors burst open. It was Tessa. Her phone was held high, the red light of the live stream glowing. "You can't do this," she shrieked, her voice practiced for maximum drama. "You can't lock my mother out. My followers are seeing this. You are all thieves. You're trying to steal our legacy. You are monsters." She was halfway to the table, her camera panning across the trustees' faces, trying to catch them in her trap. Elliot didn't raise his voice. He didn't even look angry. He simply pointed to the stack of printed access logs on the table, the ones that mapped her Instagram posts to the trust fund payments. "That's enough, Tessa," he said. The cold, final, bored power in his voice stopped her mid-step. "Every time you went live," he said, his voice dangerously quiet, "trust funds moved. Every time you posted about your legacy, my money vanished." He tapped the log. "Here is the $90,000 grant for your trip to Mykonos. Here is the $16,000 watch. You turned my name into a brand, and you looted my house to pay for it." He looked at her, his eyes flat and dead. "No more." Tessa stared at him, her mouth open, the performance broken. "Gus," Elliot commanded, "lock the doors formally." Gus moved to the doors, and we all heard the heavy, definitive click of the magnetic locks engaging. We were sealed in. "We are now tallying the vote," Elliot said, ignoring Tessa, who stood frozen, and Meredith, who had collapsed into her chair. "All in favor of the motion to remove Meredith Whitlock." Hands rose, Elliot, the two independent trustees. "The motion carries," Elliot declared. "Meredith Whitlock is removed as trustee. Effective immediately, security will escort her from the building." He pulled a single, thick, leather-bound document from his briefcase, a full restatement of the trust. He uncapped a heavy blue ink pen, and signed his name at the bottom. "This restatement is now in effect," he said, pushing it toward the Stonebridge lawyers. "The hardship policy, as I originally wrote it, is reinstated. All Whitlock-affiliated entities, including Rose Quartz Media, are permanently struck from the beneficiary list, and an independent compliance seat is hereby granted in perpetuity to Ms. Priya now to oversee all future distributions." He had done it. He had fixed it institutionally. He looked at me then, for the first time. I was standing in the corner, rocking June, who had started to fuss at the sound of her mother's scream. "Ms. Hayes," he said, the formal address sounding strange and new. "You are hereby reinstated as a beneficiary in good standing. My personal office will facilitate a home grant to fund safe, permanent housing for you and your daughter. It will be finalized within 48 hours. He paused, his eyes holding mine. "There will be no non-disclosure agreements. There will be no strings." I took a breath. It was the first full, clean breath I'd taken in a year. The air tasted sweet, but I didn't smile. Not yet. I walked forward, shifting June to my hip. I placed the forged declination sheet, the one with my misspelled name, on the gleaming mahogany. Then I placed my phone next to it. "One more item," I said, my voice clear. "For the referrals." Priya understood immediately. She stepped forward and pressed play on my phone. The room filled with Meredith's voice from the stairwell. "A settlement, a hush sum. Sign the papers and disappear." Priya stopped the recording. She looked at the terrified corporate lawyer from Stonebridge. "For the record," she said, "this matter, including these new exhibits of forgery and attempted bribery, is formally referred to the Attorney General for criminal investigation, and to the Bar Association's disciplinary committee regarding Mr. Graham Vale." That was the final break. The last thread of civility snapped. Meredith lunged. She wasn't a trustee, or a society woman. She was just a cornered animal. She lunged for the door, shoving her chair back. "You can't keep me here," she shrieked. Gus didn't move. He simply stood in her path, a mountain in a suit, his arms crossed. Security, already summoned, was entering from the other side. Tessa, seeing the last of her power evaporate, stared at her phone. The live stream was dead. The Wi-Fi in the conference room, it seemed, had been cut the moment Gus locked the doors. Her followers were gone. Elliot ignored the commotion. He ignored his daughter as security flanked her. He reached into his own briefcase and pulled out the photograph, the one I had left in the motel. The grainy picture of June's crib, cast in the sick pink light of the neon sign. He placed it on the table right next to the new, signed restatement of his billion-dollar trust. He looked at the remaining trustees. "For the minutes," he said, his voice final. "We are done choosing image over family." I walked to the table. I picked up the crib photo, the picture of my poverty, my fear, and my absolute truth. I tucked it safely into the diaper bag. I met my grandfather's eyes. He nodded. Once. The vote was final. The clause was triggered. The room was silent, save for Meredith's muffled sobs. And with that, the chair's gavel fell. As the chair's gavel fell, the story concluded.